Hi everyone, welcome to Camping with Eric. I'm Eric, and this is the start of my YouTube channel. This is the first video on my channel, so I'm trying a few different things. I was a bit nervous about recording my voice, and we were a bit rushed to get going, so I'm doing a voiceover during my editing. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Due to getting such a late start, I was really rushed to get some actual footage. A lot of this first day is a time lapse, as I got a lot of footage and I wanted to include as much as I could. One of the cool things about this trip was that the river was completely frozen over. We were able to just drag our canoes all the way up to the campsite. We had originally thought that we were going to be canoeing up to our campsite, but this made things a lot easier. As you can see here, we get to camp and it was pitch black. The only illumination we have is our headlamps. I hope to include some better lighting in my future videos. Pulling up our canoes was fairly difficult. There was a decent little hill with some small tree stumps, and the amount of gear in our canoes caused the back end to be a bit heavy. After getting the canoes up, I decided it was time to start a fire. I gathered some sticks and kindling from the immediate vicinity and used a homemade fire starter to get it going. This homemade fire starter was made out of an egg carton, some dryer lint, dental floss, and I coated it all in some leftover candle wax. Now that the fire's going, it's time to get camp set up. The tent I took on this outing was the same one I used back in December. I bought this at Cabela's. It was about 40 or 45 bucks. It's a small little two-person tent, but it works. As this was a winter outing, I brought a heavier sleeping bag and a Mr. Buddy heater, which I didn't end up using. I also brought a heated blanket along with my Rock Pals battery bank. Food and beverages were the other important items we brought. Everything else, just a matter of convenience. Some of those convenience items included an axe, a little mini chainsaw, and that heated blanket I mentioned earlier. Right around here, I realized that I had made an error and didn't check to make sure the door was facing the right way. This is unfortunate because it was cold enough out that the ground was frozen, and rehammering the cheap J-hook tent stakes was painful and time-consuming. By this point, it looks like I got the tent set up and positioned properly. The last step was putting on this tiny little rain fly. It wasn't really needed as there was no rain in the forecast this evening, but the completionist in me wanted to get it done. Once we got everything set up, it was time to start loading our sleeping gear into the tents. That included my sleeping pad, my sleeping bag, the heated blanket, the battery bank, and last but not least, the little Mr. Buddy heater, which again, I never wound up using. Here's where I'll be sleeping tonight. We got our boats over here. Dee's little tent.
We've been camping in that tent for probably a decade now.
Right? And then the hammock to hang out in. Nice crisp 28 degrees or so.
You go have a drink on the ice later?
Why not? We got the fire going. Nothing like roasting a hot dog over a campfire.
It's gonna make some rice pilaf. Woo!
Are you cooking the rice, Johnny?
Rice pilaf. I don't know how well it's gonna go, but we'll find out. Oh, I gotta get it on a simmer. You know what?
I've never actually cooked rice pilaf over a campfire before, but there's a first time for everything.
That's pretty good.
It's the next morning here. I woke up before Dee did, so I took care of the simple things like getting the fire going again. After I got the fire going, I sat back, had a breakfast beer, had a couple of hard-boiled eggs for breakfast, and waited for Dee to come out of his tent. Around this time, I thought I heard Dee moving, so it was time to start getting ready for the day. I got dressed, came back out of the tent. You can see Dee in the background, emerging from his tent as well. Now that Dee's awake and we're dressed, it's time to start packing down camp and reloading everything back into our canoes so that we can begin the journey back to our cars. And boy, what a journey. There's a little surprise at the end here. Here you'll see me loading up my sleeping bag, the Teton Sports 0 Degree sleeping bag. This thing is an absolute unit. It took a lot of struggling to stuff this into the 40-liter dry bag I brought for it. I was comfortable in it with the heated blanket, but I wouldn't recommend it for anything below 20 degrees. I also wouldn't bring this on any sort of trip where I had to fit it into a hiking pack. It's just too big and bulky. I would recommend finding a better sleeping bag in the $120 price point than this. In the time it took me to stuff that sleeping bag into that dry sack, Dee already has his tent packed down. I've still got a few more things in the tent that I have to grab out of it, so we'll be packing that down in a few seconds. I'm finally to the point where I can take the tent down, and thankfully, I've only got a few minutes before my canoe is completely packed up. Before we leave the campsite though, we need to collect any trash we might have dropped and make sure that fire is out. Once the canoes are packed up, we gotta drag them down to the water and start the journey back down this frozen river. I tried my best to record this. This is a pretty fun launch. You can see here how steep that hill was. Coming down was a lot easier than pulling that up when it was pitch black last night. Now that we're back on the ice, we can start the journey back down to our cars. For the most part, the river's frozen, but I'll bring you back in when things get fun. One thing that I definitely noticed here was the temperature definitely warmed up. Instead of being a crisp, cool 28 degrees, it was closer to about 35 here. Even though we have some clouds in the sky, it was definitely causing us to break a sweat. So here we are, January. We're in the middle of a river. It's frozen pretty much completely solid. There are a few spots of water, but we're just dragging our canoes across the river, coming back from our campsite. It's pretty brisk out today. Not too bad, 40 degrees or so. We've got some clouds in the sky. There's rain in the forecast this afternoon, so we're trying to get out of here before that hits. We don't want to get stuck in that. It's been a pretty fun trip. We left in the evening last night, so there's not too much footage of that. We kind of wanted to just go and get to camp. We also wanted to take in the scenery. It was a pretty nice night out. So we got some water behind us. This goes to show that the river's not completely frozen. Would have been nice if we could have used our motors, motor down this a bit, but here we go. We got this guy trying to get in the water. He's gonna break the ice. Watch this. How thick?
Not thick.
No, it's not thick at all. Yeah, I can see your hand through there. You don't want to do this at home. Don't try this. This is some sketchy stuff, but it's fun. Oh God, here we go. Get the fuck out of here. Get out of here. Here we go. Yeah, here I go. I'm going swimming. I'm getting out of here.
This ice does not look safe, but seemingly it's just safe enough.
So you guys can see.
So someone is deemed. Well, that was dumb.
This was probably the coolest feature I found on a GoPro when I was out here. I didn't know what it was. This is called time warp. So what it does is it stabilizes the footage while taking a time lapse. You can also come in from the time warp, but I don't do that here. Through. I wish I had the footage of getting out because it was very difficult. We got the boat out, but this wasn't the intended area of departure.
As you can see, we kind of got back in the water by accident. Then you have to kind of figure out how you're going to get yourself out of it. We didn't plan on this. We figured, we wouldn't have too hard of a time getting out. We walked in, no problem last night, but just one day, thaw it all out. Pulled the boat up. My legs are soaked. It's really not that bad. My leg's not cold at all. The water didn't feel that cold, even though it's technically 33 degrees, 32, 33 degrees. We kind of had to pull out here, kind of like an emergency landing. And the cars are close. They're right over there. But you want to see the intended area of departure. It's over here. There was no way we were gonna make our way through the ice and not run out of steam. And that's maybe 50 to 100 feet. But yeah, you got to be careful when you're on the water in the winter. Things like that can happen, and you kind of have to adjust. So we're all packed up, ready to go. Got the boat on, car's packed. There's the river behind us. And just so you can see, that right there. That's what happens when your foot goes in the water. It's not that bad. I mean, it's not super cold, but it happens. I think jeans are probably not the best medium, but where would I wear? All right, take it easy.